Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
In Uganda, we are definitely looking at the second day of the week. It is the 19th of July 2022. My name is Philomena, Mastiko. Another beautiful day. Well, yesterday was such a crazy and heavy day for most of us, but I believe Tuesday is going to become lighter. And if you are not looking at it that way, unless we intend it to make sure that it appears that way. And when I mean we, I mean myself, Robert, Kirabo, Nyonyintono, Mollen, Kenyena, and Felix Nkunda. How are you feeling this morning? I hope the energy is up there. If it's not, again, we make it our intention to do that. A lot is happening in our country. Well, people are being conned of about 2 million Ugandan shillings to make sure that they get their passports, which they don't get. And for those of you who love fish and you stay around Kalangala, there are chances that you may have to put it on hold. I mean the consumption of fish because, well, the fishermen have decided to moor their boats because the fuel prices are really skyrocketing, and this is not something we can definitely be celebrating. What I don't know is whether my 3 colleagues over here enjoy fish, because if they do, clearly that's some bad news for them. Maybe just to find out from you, Robert. Good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very fine. I'm more than fine. I'm filled with the joy and the grace of the Lord.
Amen.
So energetic this Tuesday, and
Amen.
I want to prophesy upon your life. If you've woken up with us this morning, be blessed, enjoy the show, and what more can I add? I'm prophesying a delighted, bright, full of God's grace day.
Amen. We take it. Well, good morning, Mollen. How are you doing? Are you taking the grace?
I just don't know how to add from what Kirabo has said. He started off with a lot of energy. I don't know how to compliment that, but
yes.
I'll just do me. Anyway, good morning, everyone. And of course, I want to thank you for waking up with us. It is a beautiful day. And look, being in Uganda has its own pros, obviously, with everything going around. Sometimes you just relax and you're like, okay, this is my country. So yesterday I was following up on the news, and one of the stories were about, the Uganda Heart Institute that was, is due to construct in a piece of land in Naguru. Now, when the committee went there, they found that there are encroachers on the land. But again, I want to blame this on the implementation of some of these projects. Yes, they kick off, but when you take forever to let that happen, that means people will want to take advantage of the land which is dormant.
Yes.
And when you pass that area, if you have been to that said land, it's just like one dormant area that has been there for years and years, and people are like, maybe let's take advantage. So this is Uganda, and I was also looking into the security press for yesterday, talking about 15 people already involved in the murder of the UCU students.
Yes.
In my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe there is something that police is doing recently. They are going ahead to get these whatevers. But why do we still have crimes, especially in universities? We have seen such crimes in Makerere too, and it prompts you to thinking into what happens to these students, what is going on within the security at campus that is leading to most of these crimes. And for me, that is still a big question out there.
Well, a big question that still has very many answers, pending responses from the respective parties. And again, we'll always demand accountability. Now that the police is investigating, I hope they actually come to a real solid, report. We want to know what happens, and we want to know what will be done to all the culprits. Good morning, Felix. How are you doing?
Well, I'm awesome. Good morning to you, Philo.
I'm great. I cannot complain.
How was your night?
Good.
Well, I did sort of like listen to Bob did give Asha the grace to, what was it, the prophecy? That kind of thing.
He was prophesying.
So it took me back to the Bible, the most beautiful book that I know of. And I sort of like, I don't know, which is your best book in the Bible? Let me just ask Philo. Before I come to...
I love Song of Songs.
Say what?
Yes, I do love Song of Songs, and I also love Revelations.
Do you know who wrote the Song of Songs? Solomon? Wasn't it Solomon?
Yes.
Do you know why
Such a brave and wise king.
Do you know why he wrote? Have you take time to understand why he wrote?
I know why he wrote and what he was writing about.
Absolutely. Now,
yes.
For me, one of my books I love so much in the Bible is the book of Esther. Now, in that book was one of the most beautiful women in the Bible. That was Queen Robert. Queen Vasha.
Basta.
Now, Queen Vasha had a scenario, now that you talked about the Bible. Now, Queen Vasha, the king one time asked her to just come and, like, because the king used to brag about the beauty of the queen.
Yes.
So one time he comes and says, I just want you to come I'm going to have a big meeting of my kingdom. Just come around, you know, and let people see your beauty so they admire of what I have. So Queen Vasha was like, me? A whole queen? So she refused. Now, and that's how Esther becomes a big deal in that book of Esther.
Yes.
Because her uprising starts from where Queen Vasha declines to honor the king. What does it mean for me this morning? And I was listening to Robert, that Queen Vasha forgot that she can only be a queen because she was married to a king. So she wouldn't be a queen, or her beauty would be as good as useless if she weren't still a queen to the king. So she should have honored the kingdom at all points. I think for me, on top of Robert's prophecy, I think it's a good one for us never to forget that we are probably, imagine, I don't want to put in issues of wives, Robert told me, not to trade on that kind of. So, but anyway, of course, it's another beautiful day. I think it's quite mouth-filling, and it's a great week, I must say. Startup was beautiful. We expect that the same shall be the rhythm till the end of it.
Oh, absolutely.
That, with all this prophesying going on and Felix quoting the Bible, the men are going on with all this Bible stuff on the Tuesdays.
Well,
I can only
Robert
talk
needs
about
to prophesy more about Ugandans getting more passports.
exactly.
You see, it must be the Spirit of God leading you. Pastor Bugembe has one of his songs, there is a verse that says, Semalago ogeza katonda, something like that. So, so it must be spirit-led. If I don't feel the Spirit of God communicating that to me, then I can't come and prophesy. But when the Spirit of the Lord communicates, then I pass on the message.
Do you know that the Bible also talks about prophets that their prophecies never came to pass?
The false
and
prophets.
I'll tell you why. The Bible is very clear about issues of prophecy, and in as much as you may have like the prophets who had the Spirit upon them, but because they were not prophets of the times.
Yes.
Timing is very key in the heavenly spectrum. So I don't know if my brother falls in the right timing of his prophecies, but we are waiting to see how they reveal themselves.
Well, definitely my prophecy was very simple.
Yes.
That this is the day the Lord has made.
Let us be glad and
Let us be
rejoice in
glad
it.
and rejoice in
How is
it.
prophecy?
And rejoice in it. And it's very clear that everybody watching us this morning is going to have a blessed day.
That says the Spirit of the Lord. How is that a prophecy?
It's something that came
You
to
see,
him spiritual, and he's
spiritually,
just
and-
extending that to people. So he's not saying, I'm prophesying that this is what will
That's what they
happen.
say.
He feels like the Spirit is telling him this will happen. Exactly.
It's going to happen when the Spirit of the Lord speaks.
But it's prophesying. You more than you.
Anyway.
I'm not going to be like, you know, guys, there's this prophet, I don't know even what I should say, who looks at times, like Felix, calculates, then comes out and says, during the days when the president used to address the nation, he would prophesy certain things.
Yes.
I don't want to mention the name, but he's one of the town prophets that is usually made fun of on social media.
If I say something else about the Bible, I hope Mollen won't say that word, but
I
go to a point
have
in my
nothing
life-
against the Bible. What
I
are you
got a
trying to
point in my life
insinuate?
where you see the Bible talks about not to be in the council of men who despise or talk about the men of God, and the same Bible also says, touch not my anointed
ones.
So Robert, hey,
You see, if you continue following things without reasoning,
The Bible is such a
that's why we see the
complicated
likes of Chiwetere. There was one, was it in Nigeria?
Yes,
where
or
they saw-
recently.
Recently. So much as we listen to men of God, women of God, let's be also gender sensitive, I have sisters here. Women of God, anointed ladies of God, you must have some bit of reasoning because you might be misled. There are many that are now exploiting others in the name of faith and religion.
actually also Christians must read the Bible.
Yes, you must read the Bible,
and
you must have
understand the
another
word.
sense. Someone tells you you are going to heaven, prepare. How?
Hey, you don't want to go to heaven?
Who wants to go to heaven now?
Heaven on short notice.
No, I want to go to heaven, but not
Heaven on
now.
short notice.
Not on short notice.
Yeah.
The Bible says, I'll see my children and the children of my children.
Actually it says long life is a blessing.
Long life is a blessing.
When you read the story
So,
of Abraham,
why would I want to go to heaven now? I don't.
I love the fact that you talk about reason. Now, we have a lot of things that we go by, activities that we do every single day, where we actually need to quote reason. Okay, so when it comes to our Ugandans over here, I don't know if you have been through the hassle of getting the new passport right now. It's such a hustle. You really have to kind of struggle, at least for the last couple of weeks, of course, until the Ministry of Internal Affairs came out and said they're trying to reduce on the backlog and help people get their passports. But then, while the ministry is trying to make sure that we get there, there are also people who are trying, malicious people who are trying to, seize the opportunity and scoop money out of all this. Now, for the people who really want their passports ASAP, immediately, there are these brokers who will come and tell you, just give me like 1 million, you'll get your passport in just 1 month. And one senior government official was fleeced of about 2 million Uganda shillings. And
shame upon him.
No. This is exactly the same reaction that other Ugandans were having. Like, how can a whole senior government official lose 2 million Uganda shillings?
Sorry to
He
interject.
did not use reason.
It's because he has the money.
No, you people.
Well, that could actually be a
I'm happy when these things happen. Our country, we've gone to shortcuts. Even when you go to a hospital, someone is looking for someone, you're in a queue. Very clear, someone. Our brains, our minds have been lowered. Ugandans, even when you go to the taxi park, people are lining up, those rush hours. Someone is conductor Bababi. I'm happy.
This is the system. We had gone away from that whole broker thing, especially with the passport.
Even when you go to a police post, let me tell you, someone has come to file a case. The counter is clear. The first thing is, officer but
you
now
see,
things can. Everyone thinks of how you tell someone, go to this place, you're going to see so and so. This is the process. Robert, isn't there a way here between Zokola?
But I think, Robert is right. Some of the things you are the ones causing them. Because for me, recently I was at Internal Affairs, and there is one thing I realized. You look at the fact that the system is quite clear. They have led, because right from the online application, you're given a way on how you're going to proceed with your passport. But some Ugandans believe there is a shortcut. We are the ones allowing that. Now, instead of you following up with a system and get in line with everyone else, make sure at least that system is followed. You're the one looking for if there is a shortcut. If you want a shortcut and you want your passport in time, there is a provision for that, which is called Express. Now, that is the one you should be going for, because even the money that you're giving to the brokers should even be enough for you to add and get the Express passport. So I think we're the ones permitting some of the things, and no one should be complaining about this.
Culture, everything. Isn't there?
Yes, Felix, you're saying something.
I think it's, the absence of proper processes always creates such dilemmas. I'll tell you that, like what happens, like in this particular case scenario, you understand that if the internal affairs in terms of the passports was fully operational as it should be, you get it? If people were getting their passports in the time they should be getting, all these things would be cleared. For example, you talk about an express passport for that matter, which would take about 10 working days, to say, or even less. You can imagine. But do you ever get it in 3 days?
Yes.
No.
Felix.
I have cases, and even just yesterday, trust me. And when you say that, yesterday I was dealing with similar matter. No way. For example, if you get in today and try to book an appointment, they will push you to December.
Yes.
Now, with that kind of...
If you must be in December, then wait.
There's no way. It makes no sense.
Because what is happening is,
defeats the purpose.
When for you use a shortcut, you're lengthening a period of a certain poor person who can't pay the bribe. Even before this whole circus, we still had people at the passports office. I got my passport in 1 day.
When?
Express.
There was times of COVID, Robert. Be honest also.
Not times of COVID.
Be honest.
Previously.
Be honest, Robert. How did you get a passport
Felix,
1 day?
Felix, I paid for Express.
And you got in 1 day.
And I got my passport in
Robert,
1 day.
without anyone's help.
Robert, how many people
Before
can
God.
say the same story?
I don't think.
But I don't think we should rule out the fact that Internal Affairs has had a challenge in general, especially with the system.
Yes.
At one point they were printing and then the system stopped. So all those are challenges you need to consider.
But
now, if you talk about Robert getting that in a short period of time, that's understandable. But not every Ugandan is getting that luck, because while you apply, then before you know it, the next day the system is down and they can't print out.
But even before we get into this,
even when you
referring
for
to the
express.
renewal of the passports. Do you remember when we still had, the ones that we are trying to phase out?
Yeah.
The process was still long. And I think this is what Felix was saying, that sometimes the loopholes in the systems, they're the ones that
create
enable.
the
Yes,
challenge.
we
Do you know
as
what
a
creates the
society
system
could
being
enable
long?
that.
Is instead of, if I fill in today that I want to get my passport, then a Felix Nkunda, sorry to use your name,
Well, you just did.
comes in, and for him he wants to get his passport earlier, then pays that bribe thing. Then a Mollen Kenyena also comes, another one. So instead of following the process by process, you people jumping the queue are creating the queue in another way.
Yes.
Because someone will come and tell this one, leave that one you're working on, I have some money, let's work on this person. So this habit,
Man, those things can never get done in
Well,
third world
they will
economies.
always be there, of course, but and again,
Just
I
make
really
money and
understand where
get
you're
ready.
coming, Robert, because the moment it happens, definitely there are other people you are inconveniencing. If you're going to cut the line short, if you're going to use all these, terrible systems to get the services you want, there are other people who are being inconvenienced. So at the end of the day, there is someone on the losing side and there is someone on the winning side. And again, like I always say, these are wars we are still fighting and we are yet to see victory over. But a lot is happening, news in and out, locally and of course internationally. For us, we'll take you through some of the stories that you did miss out, of course starting with some that happened right here at home.
criminality opens up where police have arrested 4 suspects. A 27-year-old former law student at Uganda Christian University, and Kakoza James, the LC3 counselor in Kamocha. Police is investigating the murder of the chief accounting officer of Buko district, who was murdered by armed people. Police have also started investigating the gruesome murders in the country. It was established that the former Uganda Christian University student who died in Makere succumbed to injuries arising from a broken glass. At least 12 external perpetrators of violence and other student brigades have been identified. 3 suspects are in police custody in relation to the death of the 27-year-old student. Relatedly, 2 assailants who murdered James Kakoza are still on the run, although 1 suspect is being held pending investigations. The leads show that the assailants trailed the late Kakoza before executing their mission. The motive of his killing is yet to be ascertained. Police is also still investigating the murder of the acting chief accounting officer of Bukwa district, Charles Ogwang, who was gunned and his car set ablaze along Bombo Road. On the other hand, the immigration is training officers at Entebbe International Airport on how to curtail human trafficking. Data shows victims of human trafficking continue to be blocked from exiting the country. From January to December 2021, 2,109 victims were offloaded, and while 1,080 victims of trafficking were offloaded from January to June 2022. Many Ugandans are being trafficked and pass by normal recruitment procedures and continue to suffer in the hands of strangers. 2 suspects, Sempija and Lillian, have been arrested for trafficking someone's wife to Iraq instead of Saudi Arabia as agreed.
We're now still in local news. We're looking at the opposition in Parliament wants a decision to regulate the border sector in Kampala, revised citing unclear criteria used while fronting the decision. Now, in a press conference involving the Shadow Cabinet, Joyce Bagala, the Shadow Minister for Information, questioned the process which the leaders in Kampala fronted to regulate the border riders in Kampala city centre.
And now we go to matters of health and land acquisition, where the Uganda Heart Institute has requested the Land Commission to intervene in the matter where 1 Tendo Investments who have failed to vacate part of the 10-acre land set aside to construct a multi-million Uganda Heart Institute. This concern was raised by the Executive Director, Uganda Heart Institute, Dr. John Omangina, during the Parliamentary Health Committee visit at the site. The Parliamentary Health Committee had a locust visit to the proposed home of the Uganda Heart Institute in Naguru. During this visit, the delegation heard that the institute had acquired 10 acres of land to construct a $70 million heart institute to cater for heart problems in the country. But the executive director of the institute, Dr. John Omangino, raised concern about Tendo Investment, who have, hindered the progress of the construction. The Health Committee Chairperson, Dr. Charles Ayume, promised support to the institute in order to reduce on the costs of open heart surgeries abroad. The committee also appealed to KCCA to clear up roads and improve drainage in the area.
Now, the president of the Bible Society of Uganda, that is Justice Mark Chibita, has said that most of the fusion we see in the result is a result of their disorganized marriage institutions. Now, she also says the marriage institution faces challenges resulting from individual traits. As a result, the Bible Society of Uganda has invited 150 couples for a marriage conference to reorganize the institution of marriage, which is a basis for fruitful families. Now, challenges facing marriages today are enormous and threatening the institutions, yet it is said to be God's intention of putting the world in order. The COVID-19 pandemic worsened the state of many families in which divorces, child marriages and incest were common, and the Bible Society of Uganda has also a conference focusing on marriage people, targeting majorly Christian marriages.
Crossing over to some of the global news out there, President Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended the head of Ukraine's spy agency, the SBU, and the Prosecutor General, citing many cases of treason in the two powerful organizations. He said more than 60 former employees were now working against Ukraine in Russian-occupied areas. A total of 651 collaboration and treason cases had been opened against law enforcement officials, he added. The officials, Ivan Baknov and Irina Venediktova, have not commented. In a video address late on Sunday, Mr. Zelensky said such an array of crimes against the foundations of the national security of the state pose very serious questions to the relevant heads. Each of these questions will receive a proper answer, the Ukrainian president added. In a later appearance on Ukrainian TV, Andriy Smirnov, one of Mr. Zelensky's top advisors, clarified that officials have not been fired as initially suggested, but merely removed pending an investigation. The removal of SBU Chief Ivan Baknov, a childhood friend of Mr. Zelensky, follows the high-profile arrest of a former SBU regional head in Crimea, annexed by Russia in 2014. Ole Kulinch is suspected of treason. And moving over to the United Kingdom's former finance minister Rishi Sunak has held on to his lead in the race to replace Boris Johnson as another hopeful was knocked out, leaving 4 candidates in the increasingly bitter contest. Sunak got 115 votes in the third ballot of Conservative legislators on Monday, ahead of former Defence Minister Penny Mordaunt with 82 and Foreign Secretary Liz Truss with 71. Since Johnson said he would resign earlier this month after his scandal-ridden administration lost the support of many in his ruling Conservative Party, the leadership race has taken an ugly turn, with several contenders turning their fire on Sunak, the frontrunner. He has faced criticism on everything from his record in government to his wife's wealth, with those vying to make it to a runoff between the final 2 candidates, with Truss and Mordaunt his most likely opponents. Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Tom Tugendhat, a former soldier and Johnson critic who has never had a role in government, was eliminated from the leadership contest on Monday after securing the fewest votes with 31. Former Equalities Minister Kemi Badenoch came fourth in the vote with 58 votes.
Switching over to Africa, the deadly Marburg virus, a highly infectious disease in the same Marburg family, now as the virus that causes Ebola. It says both patients died recently in the hospital in the southern Ashanti region. Their samples came back positive earlier this month and have now been verified by a laboratory in Senegal. Health officials in the West African nation says 98 people are now under quarantine as suspected contact cases. These include relatives, medics and mortuary workers who came into contact with the 2 patients. This is the second time that Marburg has been identified in West Africa, and there was only 1 confirmed case in Guinea last year, but that outbreak was declared over in September, 5 weeks after the case was discovered. The World Health Organization, which is supporting Ghana's health authorities, have praised the country's swift response. This is good because without immediate and decisive action, Marburg can easily get out of hand, says Dr. Mashidiso Moet, the WHO's Africa Director. There is a whole multidisciplinary team in the field trying to ensure that they were able to unearth the real source of this. Dr. Patrick Kumar Abujaje, the head of Ghana's health service, told BBC. Contact tracing and strict infection control measures have been introduced to prevent more fatalities, and teams are also going into communities to make them aware of the symptoms and to ensure that they alert health authorities if any suspected cases emerge. And in the weather and climate news, we talk about the heat apocalypse. Now, a heat wave brewing Europe has moved northwards to the United Kingdom and fueled ferocious wildfires in Spain and France, where more than a dozen local temperature records were broken. 2 people were killed in blazes in Spain that its prime minister linked to global warming, saying on Monday, climate change kills. That toll came on top of hundreds of heat-related deaths reported in the Iberian Peninsula, as high temperatures have gripped the continent in the recent days and triggered wildfires from Portugal to the Balkans, and some areas, including northern Italy, also are experiencing extended droughts. Climate scientists say life-threatening heat waves are more intense, more frequent and longer because of climate change, and coupled with the droughts have made wildfires harder to fight. Severe heat waves have come even to places like the UK, where officials have issued the country's first ever extreme heat warning, and the Weather Service forecast that the record high of 38.7 degrees Celsius that was set in 2019 could be shattered. Now, temperatures rose to 38 degrees Celsius in southern England on Monday and are now forecast to hit a record-breaking 40 degrees Celsius on Tuesday, according to UK's Meteorological Office.
Well, while we're still struggling with that, at least there is one thing for sure that we don't have to struggle with, and that is, of course, boosting your health, especially with what Robert has to say to us right now.
Hallelujah Jinga tea and hallelujah tamarind drink. Now, what these do is they boost your immune system. Diseases are bound to happen, but you must ensure you're not part of the people that are going to be affected by a number of diseases. If your body is empowered to fight off these diseases, then that means you won't visit the doctor. So simply at just 1,500, get any of these 2 bottles, and I guarantee you, at the end of the month, you'll make balances, look at your expenditure, and you'll have so much you'll have saved that you could have spent in hospitals.
And right now, in the poll question, obviously, we want to find out from you, especially with all the recent happenings and the stories we've had about people becoming victims of all these brokers in the process of acquiring passports. Share your thoughts on how best brokers and fraudsters can be avoided in the acquisition of passports by Ugandans. How best can all these brokers and fraudsters be avoided, especially when you are in on the process of acquiring a passport. As a Ugandan, we need to find a way collectively to get rid of these people. Otherwise, such a big population of Ugandans are losing a lot of money to all these fraudsters, something that really doesn't look nice and does not depict the picture we want the Ministry of Internal Affairs to actually be showing to the rest of the country. Well, we do expect your engagement. We want to find out from you, and we'll be sharing your thoughts, your feedback, your advice, to the rest of our Good Morning Uganda fraternity. For now, we'll be getting into the motivation for this Tuesday. When we get back, obviously, we'll be getting into the dry spell, how it's affecting Ugandans, and how farmers are actually very frustrated in our Good Morning Uganda Newsreel segment. We'll be back after this. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in
In Uganda, we are definitely looking at the second day of the week. It is the 19th of July 2022. My name is Philomena, Mastiko. Another beautiful day. Well, yesterday was such a crazy and heavy day for most of us, but I believe Tuesday is going to become lighter. And if you are not looking at it that way, unless we intend it to make sure that it appears that way. And when I mean we, I mean myself, Robert, Kirabo, Nyonyintono, Mollen, Kenyena, and Felix Nkunda. How are you feeling this morning? I hope the energy is up there. If it's not, again, we make it our intention to do that. A lot is happening in our country. Well, people are being conned of about 2 million Ugandan shillings to make sure that they get their passports, which they don't get. And for those of you who love fish and you stay around Kalangala, there are chances that you may have to put it on hold. I mean the consumption of fish because, well, the fishermen have decided to moor their boats because the fuel prices are really skyrocketing, and this is not something we can definitely be celebrating. What I don't know is whether my three colleagues over here enjoy fish, because if they do, clearly that's some bad news for them. Maybe just to find out from you, Robert. Good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very fine. I'm more than fine. I'm filled with the joy and the grace of the Lord.
Amen.
So energetic this Tuesday, and
Amen.
I want to prophesy upon your life. If you've woken up with us this morning, be blessed, enjoy the show, and what more can I add? I'm prophesying a delighted, bright, full of God's grace day.
Amen. We take it. Well, good morning, Mollen. How are you doing? Are you taking the grace?
I just don't know how to add from what Kirabo has said. He started off with a lot of energy. I don't know how to compliment that, but
Yes.
I'll just do me. Anyway, good morning, everyone. And of course, I want to thank you for waking up with us. It is a beautiful day. And look, being in Uganda has its own pros, obviously, with everything going around. Sometimes you just relax and you're like, okay, this is my country. So yesterday I was following up on the news, and one of the stories were about, you know, the Uganda Heart Institute that was, you know, is due to construct in a piece of land in Naguru. Now, when the committee went there, they found that there are encroachers on the land. But again, I want to blame this on the implementation of some of these projects. Yes, they kick off, but when you take forever to let that happen, that means people will want to take advantage of the land which is dormant.
Yes.
And when you pass that area, if you have been to that said land, it's just like one dormant area that has been there for years and years, and people are like, maybe let's take advantage. So this is Uganda, and I was also looking into the security press for yesterday, talking about, you know, 15 people already involved in the murder of the UCU students.
Yes.
In my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe there is something that police is doing recently. They are going ahead to get these whatevers. But why do we still have crimes, especially in universities? We have seen such crimes in Makerere too, and it prompts you to thinking into what happens to these students, what is going on within the security at campus that is leading to most of these crimes. And for me, that is still a big question out there.
Well, a big question that still has very many answers, pending responses from the respective parties. And again, we'll always demand accountability. Now that the police is investigating, I hope they actually come to a real solid, you know, report. We want to know what happens, and we want to know what will be done to all the culprits. Good morning, Felix. How are you doing?
Well, I'm awesome. Good morning to you, Philo.
I'm great. I cannot complain.
How was your night?
Good.
Well, I did sort of like listen to Bob did give Asha the grace to, what was it, the prophecy, that kind of thing?
He was prophesying.
So it took me back to the Bible, the most beautiful book that I know of. And I sort of like, I don't know, which is your best book in the Bible? Let me just ask Philo. Before I come to...
I love Song of Songs.
Say what?
Yes, I do love Song of Songs, and I also love Revelations.
Do you know what I should say? Who looks at Times Media?
If I say something else about the Bible...
This is Good Morning Uganda.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Gold TV. Love it.
Vimba! Ni MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest party of 2022 is here! UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarara station on Goch Road in Mbarara City with your favorite entertainer, Echitimburecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarara University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Chigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori, and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail of fun with UBC West presenters, listeners, and supporters. Come, be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land with top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities, and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Reigunga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar, and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using to Gabane. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
For joining us here for the Good Morning Uganda newsreel, while we get to talk about the topical issues in our communities, in our society, and even in our country generally. My name is Philomena and I am with the two gentlemen, of course, Felix Nkunda and Robert Kirabo. Before we get into the conversation this morning, I just need to remind you of our poll question, where we want to find out from you how best we can deal with all the fraudsters and even the brokers in the process of acquiring a passport. This has been a story for the last couple of weeks, and people have fallen victims to all these fraudulent people and malicious people as well. So we want to get rid of all these. Well, do share with us your thoughts, your opinions. We want to pick a brain from you on how we can deal with this problem that has become a vice and also terrible in our communities. But this morning, we want to focus our attention and our conversations on the dry spell that is really frustrating very many farmers. Now, this is not something that has just happened Only that every single month, every month that goes by, we are seeing new districts, new areas are falling prey to this dry spell. Now, recently reports have been coming in, especially concerning farmers in Lwengo, where we are seeing them being very frustrated because of the dry spell, the drought. Plants are drying out. I'm talking about coffee, I'm talking about maize, and they're not yielding any results. Now, not to go so far, back in March, we also had some reports coming in from Bara district and other districts where farmers were saying the same story. Now, definitely, when farmers start complaining, we know that Uganda heavily relies on agriculture. And even then, most of our products, it could be for local consumption, but even some of the major exports are all agriculture products. So when we hear such sad reports, everyone gets into a panicking mode, because in one way or another, it's going to affect you. Definitely we'll be looking at low food levels. Definitely we have already been seeing that, and some areas are already in the red zone, and we don't know how fast this could be spreading to other areas. Again, we're looking at such an impact that will have on the economy of Uganda as a country, knowing that agriculture is, you know, our backbone. Now, Robert, just to pick from you, what are some of the major causes that are driving all of us to such a state? And I mean, everyone would start worrying. Like I said, if a farmer tells you, you know, my garden is really dried out, I have to remove all these coffee trees, all these maize stalks, because there is nothing good coming out of them.
Well, the obvious one would say is prolonged drought, because we know in Uganda we have two rain seasons. We have the March to May, and that is the biggest, because we usually have a lot of rain.
Yes.
That is where we advise farmers to grow plants that require a lot of rain. Then we have the August to December. So what happened with climate change, things have changed, that when you expect rain, it doesn't occur. But that is something that many countries in the world are now experiencing.
Yes.
So for me, prolonged drought would not have been the problem, because we now know that is what is happening.
It's a given.
It's a given. But, and even we have countries that are semi-arid, but we are even importing some of their agricultural produce. So prolonged drought being the blanket statement that everyone is looking at, and for me I find it very defensive. Why? Because prolonged drought, prolonged drought. But hey, what do some countries that are semi-arid and they are having almost no rainfall or once a year, and they're not experiencing this? So we are having a problem first and foremost of our country, the biggest problem in the field of agriculture, and I don't know why this is so hard for us to find a solution, is our farmers are depending on what we call rainfall-fed agriculture. In the 21st century, that is outdated. We can no and we are still on rainfall-fed agriculture. The two don't match in the 21st century. That's why I told you that countries that are in a worse state than we have, they're having food, because they moved away from rainfall-fed agriculture. You're talking of agriculture, our backbone. You have over 60% of Ugandans in subsistence agriculture. They're feeding chenda chonka.
Yes.
That
from
they are
the garden
planting
to the stomach.
But your backbone is agriculture. Over 60% of your population, they're not in commercial agriculture. For them, it is about the stomach. Shame upon us. Because this would have been our priority. That I'm happy that now government is seeing this. Most of the visionary leader, President Kaguta Museveni, he's talked about all of these things all the time. How do we transform these people? Because, Philo, if these people were in commercial agriculture, they would have had the pumps. Because what they are putting on their farm is earning them money. Today when you hear our beans have dried, our whatever's have dried, because they are growing for the stomach and then maybe selling little, it is not a business. So depending on rainfall-fed agriculture is a mistake. And then second, having a big population of the people tilling the land when they are peasantry society, subsistence farmers. That is where the problem is. 2, information flow. The Mollens, the experts at Makerere, Namolonge, all these research institutions.
Yes.
They have very good research. I'm very passionate about farming. I covered farming. I've been in farming for some time. But when you go to these areas, that is where you find Ugandan scientists that have made breakthroughs. You'll have cassava that is drought resistant, but it has been planted in Namolonge, in these sites that are showing you, now we developed that cassava. But the real farmer doesn't have that cassava.
Yes.
You go to Namolonge, Longe 2, Longe 3, these are terms of maize that have been developed in Uganda. They are drought resistant. But the farmer in Rengo here, in Gayaza and Makukuru, doesn't have that maize.
Yes.
So the science remains at places where it has been discovered. It doesn't trickle down to the farmer. You have resistant crop seedlings. So if the farmer is not getting them, because like I told you, some of these countries have developed drought resistant crops because science is not limited. 2, when I was growing up, I've not lived for very long, but I've lived for some time. I remember in our village, I remember in our village,
we talked about age.
I was expecting something from Felix,
so it's okay.
So I knew. I remember in our days, when we were growing up, we had extension farmers on the village. You would be home and then hear someone knocking, the person goes to the garden, tells your mother, now now wait, telling farmers. These guys were moving on bicycles. We had a veterinary doctor, he was called, we nicknamed him Nume, but he would ride his motorcycle and advise and continue.
Yes.
Free of charge.
How long ago was that?
Absolutely. So I'm thinking about.
How long ago was that?
Free of charge about
73.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Yes.
So they were there in the communities. Today, extension workers are very rare. So farmers don't know what to do. Veterinary doctors, today your cow develops a problem in the villages. You struggle to get a vet.
Yes.
People that are watching and they know it, a government veterinary officer. You'll hear, I'm busy, I'm working on so-and-so's farm. They have been gotten and they're working on VIP's farms. Yet they're supposed to be working in communities. So the farmers lack knowledge. The extension workers and veterinary officers are not going down to give them knowledge. Then, also, they lack knowledge in far as weather. You know, the meteorology department usually issues
They issue warnings, reports that tell you how the next seasons will be looking like.
A farmer in Rengo doesn't get this information. For them, they still go and get their seeds, saying we are going to plant in March. Yet the meteorological department is warning that these areas are going to receive less rainfall.
Yes.
And farmers should not plant. Now this poor man goes on still on the cram work of March to May, August to December, gets his savings, buys the seeds, then prepares to plant, expecting rain. Information is not going down. And also another reason is they lack modern methods of farming. I want to tell you, Philo, away from mechanization and irrigation, today when I move in these villages, by the grace of God, I've been able to do an agriculture show on one of our radios for the last 5 years. So every time I'm in communities with farmers, on my weekends calling me. But I want to tell you one thing that is very clear. When you go to these farmers, many of them are still using old methods of farming. They still have this mentality that Nkunda needs 10 acres to plant maize.
Yes.
This poor man is having 10 acres planting maize, yet a Philomena who has his earning is getting maybe the same produce like a man using modern agriculture
on a smaller piece
of land. So it's more tedious. Even if it is irrigation, he can't. Yet me, I'm having 1 acre. I can even move with a watering can.
Yes.
You know? Or if I have a minimal source of water, I can irrigate. But they still have these old methods, thinking you must have a big portion. They don't use fertilizers, not because they wouldn't want. Okay, money could also be a problem, but there's a challenge of even knowing knowledge.
Yes.
Someone still believes the way my grandfather planted, my father planted, is the way I'll still plant. This land over a time has been used. Now it is in Uganda, we are using fertilizers and recommend organic fertilizers. So they lack modern methods of farming. They lack the knowledge in time to warn them. Then they're still depending on rainfall-fed agriculture. And worse, they are peasants because what they are putting there is not giving them money to bring back, to reinvest this money into that. And finally, also government approach to helping farmers.
Yes.
Is still kind of in a staggered manner, and maybe sometimes they lack direction on how to do things better.
Well, clearly from what I pick from you is that we have the traditional farming and we have the modern farming, but of course there is need for us to transition all the way from, traditional to modern, which also comes in with a lot of changes, skill set, even the mentality that we still heavily rely on that. But also to pick from you, Felix, when we look at this, when we're talking about issues of low crop production and agriculture, it has an impact on the economy. And for an economy that heavily relies on agriculture, we can't be looking at systems of farming like subsistence farming, where people basically go to the garden, plant their beans, their maize, and just go home and eat. Subsistence farming, when you look at its contribution to the economy, I don't really want to say it's insignificant, but it won't yield us the results we want to see. So what are some of the effects or the impact we are seeing of problems like this on Uganda's economy?
Well, you see, when you talk about agriculture, most recently, you can't actually quote it as the backbone of Uganda's economy. That would be quite an illusion, I must say.
Yeah.
I think it turns out not to be true. Because up till today, from even what Robert has said, the evidence lies in almost our daily discussions, and partly also what Robert was saying earlier, that if it was the backbone, it shouldn't be where it is today, I must say. And that in its own self then brings in the contextual argument that are the relevant institutions doing enough in regards to what they should be doing with agriculture? And who are the relevant institutions? Majorly or primarily, that's government. What's the government policy on agriculture in this country? You get it?
Yes.
Look at the budget. How is the budget allocated later on? Once money is passed, it is allocated to do what? To buy hose? I mean, are we still in the generation where you're buying horse? If you're talking about commercial agriculture,
yeah.
What can a horse do for a commercial agriculture? It's something you're seeking to make a backbone. When you still have pesticides in this country that are out of 10, you have 7 of them duplicates. And by the some of them are even imported. And they pay taxes, I'm trying to say. So what am I saying? That all these things prove that we are not doing enough. Even before we go to the Nyonyintono who actually do the actual digging and owning these properties. We have a saying, for some of you who do a bit of business, there's this saying we have that you put your money where your heart is. And that's the principle of investment. You don't go here and start now, you then probably, you start saying, I want to invest in Eurospace. I'm like, what the hell? You hardly even know how a propeller works.
Yes.
But you want to invest in that. Now, knowledge is one of the things we are deficient of in terms of agriculture. By the way, we think we know agriculture, Ugandans. I hear Ugandans talk about, hobuli me. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the Israelis who took soil even from no more agriculture. You see, this thing has nothing to do with how long you've been doing it. It has everything to do with how quick you are to make things work. For some of you are privileged to have traveled to countries like, and I'll speak about Israel because I've been privileged, and I've seen majorly in Tel Aviv. You notice that people have farms of about 100 by 100 in the context of Uganda, and that's about 20 decimals. But man, the guy has over 70 cows on that piece of land. He sells milk over 100 liters every day. But he's also growing other food supplements on that. But I'm talking about 20 decimals. And these things are even documented when you go to internet. I'm not saying we can do that. But because they realized that they needed to have a backbone of their country, the state invested greatly in one, knowledge. You see, knowledge is power. Like some of the mottos of schools, if you've seen some of the schools in the village, they have those funny mottos. They'll say, there's one school, by the way, in Rubaga that used to, the motto was, don't laugh at me, one day I'll be a minister. I don't know, probably if you ask Steve, you'll be, there's a school that but away from that, some of the mottos you see in school, knowledge is power, like, you know, those mottos. And indeed it is power. The absence of knowledge for Ugandan farmers is the problem, in my opinion, and that is it. They don't have empowerment, because agriculture is not something you need, agriculture is not something you need to do when you're very rich.
Yes.
You only need to have the right information. For example, talking about seasons, you cannot do formal or good agriculture when you don't have knowledge about the seasons. That's the first thing. Secondly, you're not able to do sensible agriculture when you don't know or you don't have the knowledge about what to plant.
Yes.
What species, like Robert was telling you. Now they are also weather-resistant breeds.
But so who's supposed to avail this knowledge? Absolutely. And are they doing it?
It's only the government, because it's the only one with the resources.
Yes.
It's the primary holder of the agriculture sector in the country. For example, some people, there are things that only government can do, or it can lobby investors to do, like a value addition, massive value addition. The Roberts of this world will have tomatoes. Okay, you're taking them to plant 7 acres of tomatoes, and then? And
then what happens after they plant?
Is he going to, where is he going to sell? Does he have the market? You get it.
But
how,
even before you go
much
to
tomatoes
market,
can we consume?
even you must have what you're going to sell. First, you have to have increased production. And Felix mentioned something very important when he talked about information which government must do. I want to say many times I've been, I feel sometimes my heart bleeds when I go and meet these farmers. Reason being, you find these farmers in the village with poor methods of farming. They wake up at 6, they're already tilting the land. They even cook food there.
Yes.
Take their saucepans, in the evening they come back very tired, and tomorrow they have to go back to the same garden. Poor people.
They're doing it the wrong way continuously.
And they're happy to do it.
Yes.
Because that's
and then
all
they
know.
wait, but this is where my heart bleeds. Now, when you go to some of these research institutes of our government, where there is so much research, and you ask them, now, which farmers have these drought-resistant cassava? Honorable so and Sam Lina kufamu. The farmers tell you, MP wafe kufamu ye wali ye miti ye mirunji. Breeds of animals, good ones. Talk about. So the would-be beneficiaries of this research are not the ones. It's good. The haves are having it. They're increasing production, and you're wondering if this research has been made. Why don't these things go to that target the rightful person? And you'll be shocked. That's why I earlier told you there's a veterinary doctor for a district or a parish. He's on farms of other people. From morning to evening.
And that's why I really want Felix to come in and explain what's frustrating. You did talk about how you will go to all these researchers, they've come up with all these new variants or new types of crops. And then these sample, I don't know, they call them sample farms or, you know, and
model
that's why
farms.
the
Now
model farms. Yes.
Model farms.
So maybe Felix, if you could help us, why don't these get to the local person, the local man who is supposed to actually put them to use if we are looking at commercial agriculture, if that is what we intend to, you know, what would be frustrating that whole transitioning?
Well, ideally in third world countries, and not only Uganda, if I may also excuse our poor lovely country, third world countries suffer from syndromes like corruption, and they also suffer from syndromes like selfishness. But later on also the biggest challenge is that failures of governments to implement good policies, majorly for almost third world countries. The reason is simple, that priorities. I've told you, when, and not that there's anything that is not important, but where do your priorities lie? You may see the Kirabos, the Philos, myself and other many Ugandans may see agriculture as something quite important. But does leadership of the country emphasize the same? Because between you and me, and I want to just say this, when you look at coffee production in this country, how do you prove to me, in all senses of sanity, that Uganda doesn't have a sitting international company here processing coffee? You're there bragging about, Manya, we are number one in providing coffee in the world. For us, you see us here, we have the best coffee in the world. Our coffee, when you taste it, it brings what in the what? That's bogus. I find that useless. You're bragging about, it's simply saying, you know, like blowing air in a basket. That's what you're doing. As long as for you see your cheeks wide off, but air just, you can't brag about. If you don't have any sitting companies, not until I think the Honorable Deputy Vice President opened up one of the fruit processing. Is it Teju? Something that processes juice and what. So again, priority. You talk about priorities, you must be able to prove the same. We have been bragging about issues like vegetables. What are we doing about such things? So, because of the absence of policies and all these things, we have frustrated the farmers. Farmers feel frustrated. I've given an example of market. We don't even ask, how many people here in Uganda, for example, have you seen today, what's the price of pineapples? Kids run on roads with pineapples, almost 10 pineapples for 10,000.
Yes.
So a pineapple in Uganda is 1,000. If we had a company that adds value to pineapple, and this has been consistent for the last 2 years, pineapples have been like, they are getting rotten fruits, basically, actually, all fruits. Watermelons today are the
all over the
cheapest
road,
things.
yes.
Now, yeah, what are we doing? Now, how do you tell Kirabo to invest in planting pineapples again? There was a time, maize. Remember when people were stuck with maize and they almost were selling a kilo at 200?
Yes.
But how much does someone spend honestly at the point of harvesting maize? So I think we're not doing enough. These things of drought coming, because how many people are leaving agriculture to other sectors? Do we have this research trying so we can be able to make the studies and try to correct? I think we are still lacking. Look, talk about food storage. All these things, I think with all these challenges, you may not blame Ugandans much. The only thing we can talk about outrightly is bragging about backbones and what, and themas.
Well, and I totally understand. And from this conversation, it's quite evident that we know it as a backbone of the country, but it's not, we're not action oriented towards it.
That
we're
was
not,
for SST.
Yes, we're not doing a lot. We're not doing a lot to make sure we get there.
This blanket statement of drought has caused these problems.
Yes.
In the 21st century, it should not be an issue.
We can't have the same problem.
We can't say
for
drought,
more than one decade,
drought.
more than 2
the
decades.
Scientists will predict or will use their science and tell you we are going to have a long dry spell. What do? You give excuse drought. Now you are MPs. Send food to Rengo. Send food to Karamoja. You see, how do we move into irrigation? Simple. How do we move into mechanized agriculture? How do we transform these people to live subsistence and they go into commercial agriculture? What should be done now, we feel, for the people of Rengo? Government, as of now, of course, must perform a surgical operation. They deliver food because they don't have what to eat. That is the short term. But we should look at the long term. Because climate is changing, maybe one time the entire country will have a dry spell. Are we going to feed families? Do we have that capacity as a country? No, let's plan now. What happened to our valley dams? We should have a specific budget that is going to look at irrigation and valley dams. And that should be dealt with. We should provide fertilizers. We should have modern methods of farming being passed on and all the science developed, reaching the ordinary farmer.
There is a need to shift from all the traditional methods of farming into the modern methods of farming, but this comes with a lot of knowledge. This also comes with a lot of skill set. With that and all that, so the suggestions that have been presented by Felix and Robert and all other agriculture experts out there who totally know how we are standing, in that sector, I am pretty sure we'll quite get ahead of this problem. That's it from this morning. We'll be headed into the papers to look at the stories, what made it to the front pages, to the sports section, Daily Monitor, New Vision, and the Daily Nation, coming up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest party of 2022 is here! UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarora station on Goch Road in Mbarora City with your favorite entertainer, Echitimbulecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarora University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Chigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori, and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail fun with UBC West presenters, listeners, and supporters. Come be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land with top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities, and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Reikuga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar, and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A World Cup in the desert, the first one in the Middle East, the first to be held at the end of the year. That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV, love it.
Vimba! Ni MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, in the print media this morning, looking at some of the big stories in the Daily Monitor, we start off with murdered city jogger trailed on social media. And of course, these were the dangerous followers that came in, and according to the report that was presented by the police, they say their review of surveillance security camera footage shows that the assailants began trailing city councillor James Kakoza shortly after he started a road run he had posted about in a WhatsApp group. Now you can catch that story in the Daily Monitor this morning. Ugandan maker of baby incubator dies. Quite very sad. And showing you one of the biggest baby incubators manufactured by Christopher Nsamba at Kawempe National Referral Hospital in Kampala. Now Nsamba, who was 37 years old, died on Sunday at a hospital in Kampala. Now get more stories still in the Monitor, and how Sebe received Cheptegei's goal victory. Celebratory messages are still coming in, and I will tell you the people from this region are still very excited, and so are we. Now, MP faces incitement charge over Makerere University poll chaos. That's another story you can't fail to catch up on. And Katuna border leaders to evict kiosk operators. This has also been happening in some of the Kampala areas. And again, RDC on the spot over Kat Otuke rice field. Again, in more stories that you can catch up this morning. Quite a lot happening in the Daily Monitor. But also we do have the new vision that is full and rich on some of those stories that you ought not to miss. What are we looking at, Mollen?
Well, in the new vision, they're talking about the parish development model gets shillings 15 billion agriculture boost. That is all sub-counties to get tractors. And the full story is on page 3 of the new vision. Makerere murder, militant student group led attack, says police. That is also on page 8. They give you a big picture right there of Cheptegei bags shillings 260 million. That excites Ugandans, obviously, with all the victory coming through. And I can see a lot of Ugandans that are happy for him. Now, also in the new vision for today, police footage Kamoche Councillor Kakoza's last hours. They're also giving you details on that. That is on page 6. In marriage, Chibata roots for courtship. That is on page 26 of the new vision. More stories are in the paper for today.
Crossing over to Daily Monitor Sports, Museveni leads praises for champion Cheptegei, and of course the First Lady also had something nice and beautiful to say to the champion. Cheptegei wants more, okay, and well, it wouldn't be so bad if the man is ambitious. And crossing over to World Athletics, Nakai vies for top seat. Halima Nakai was up by vying for a seat on the World Athletics Council. That would also mean quite a lot for us. World Athletics Championships Oregon 2022, they're still giving you the details, and they tell you the track distance, the double winners, all this in the Daily Monitor Sports.
And the New Vision Sport also talking mostly about Oregon 2022. They give you a picture right there of Cheptegei as, of course, he celebrates the win, but also more about the history of how much he has been achieving so far, and giving you more of the details of how far Ugandans have performed, and of course cashing in on the medals. They give you details of that in the New Vision Sport, and of course a lot more of the stories concerning Oregon 22 and more in the sports arena.
Well, for the Daily Nation this morning, decision 2022, and I'm telling you the days go lower every single time. 20 days is what we are looking at for us to know who will be the next president. Gachagua versus Karua. Now, did you know that in just 20 days, the 5.8 million vote-rich Mount Kenya region will face a reality test, as this is the first election since the return of multi-party politics. All that in the Daily Nation. There is quite a very serious face-off over there, and you can grab your copy of the Daily Nation to know what's happening. Now, it's over, or is it? We're talking about IEBC Bar's Mike Mbuvi Sonko, from vying for any elective post in the country. In business, Baronzu rule local oil industry have also been put out there for you to know. And Kenyans protest long visa delays in the travel section. And ugali is back. The government will in the next 1 month provide a subsidy to millers that will reduce the price of 2 kilos of maize meal from 210 Kenyan shillings to 100 100 Kenyan shillings. I guess the Kenyans must be happy right now. You know, the relationship they do have between them and ugali is quite intense. So grab yourself quite a copy of the Daily Nation, the Monitor, the New Vision to catch up on all those stories and many, many more. But also this morning, we are looking at the traffic, and I want to focus on areas of Mulago, Makerere, Nakulabye, Chebando, Waise, Kasubi, of course, as you're headed towards the city center. And from the overview, I could say that several parts on these roads are quite very busy this morning, and you need to be a very patient person. Also, you need to exercise a lot of maturity, especially if you're coming in from these areas. Now, coming in from areas of Nakulabye, I'm looking at Hoima Road. It's very busy this morning, and it is decorated with red and maroon over here, showing you the traffic build up on these specific spots is already intense. So if this is your usual route by now, you must have already seen what I'm talking about. And by the way, the stretches go on and on and on, and for several parts also the traffic is building up, meaning that there are chances it could progress a traffic that is quite very heavy. So Hoima Road this morning could be a no-go for you as you're headed towards the city center. And of course, connecting on Makerere Hill Road, I could say the traffic is also starting to build up around there. And again, this should be getting heavier by the minute. As of course you're approaching Sir Apollo Kagwa Road, the traffic is also heavy on that very that very specific spot. So if this is also your usual route, or you're already on this route this morning, you must be already experiencing the traffic over there. And I mean, for the cars that are using this route to get to the city center or trying to connect back to Makerere Hill Road and get back to Hoima Road, well, you need to expect that heavy traffic. And as of course you're headed towards the city center, I'm looking at Gaddafi Road. Gaddafi Road is also very heavy this morning with traffic. Again, you have to exercise quite a lot of patience on that very, very specific road. Of course, as you're continuing all the way to Wandegea is actually a no-go area for you. You would have to exercise a lot of patience. Again, it's a very busy town, day in, day out, at least for the most part of the week. So when these traffic buildups are there, it doesn't come as a surprise. Wandegea all the way till Kampala, it's also, the traffic is starting to build up here and there. So any minute now or 30 minutes from now, could be an hour from now, there's different story may be told on that road, because any minute the traffic could be heavier. And again, when you get to the main road, which is of course Kampala Road, I could say that the traffic is already starting to build up over there, so it shouldn't come as a surprise. Quite a busy one. So if you're coming in from all these areas, you need to expect that they are quite busy this morning. That's it from the traffic updates this morning. Also, we need to know what's happening in the weather and the climate sector. What are we looking at, Mollen, this morning?
Well, this morning it seems like we're still talking about the heat wave that is raging mostly across Europe, and most countries are already giving red alerts for the first time. Now, we are lucky here in the tropics for us in Uganda and most places within Africa. We usually don't get that extreme, such kind of extremes, but you can imagine the kind of danger that they pose if they were to come around here. So that's the big story right there.
Well. A lot of prayers are necessary, but also a lot of action ought to be taken. I will leave you now to Mollen to give you more details on this big story and many, many more. Good morning. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. We still continue on a follow-up of especially the red alert that has been given out in UK for the first time. The UK is issuing out an amber alert, and they're saying this is the first time they're seeing such extremes. And of course, the forecast that is also coming in for today, they are looking at breaking records. It could be going to 40 degrees Celsius. Now, that is not a number that has been experienced over the UK. For the first time, they could be looking at more of those. already, if you can see from that picture, most of the areas are even going to, you know, those deep red colors. They're looking at Newcastle, of course, already in 32, and Manchester at 36, Birmingham at 37. Now London is already at 40, and that is what the forecast is indicating. You also have Norwich at 38. Those are numbers that are already, you know, breaking records of 2019. Now this, we could be looking at one of the hottest years on record as we talk about 2022. But also the fact that all those areas are already in red and orange, indicating that much of, you know, UK could be facing more of those heat waves. Now, of course, the heat wave is coming with temperatures soaring up. And of course, this is not just in the UK, the fact that they have, for the first time, issued that amber alert. But also what is coming through is that most of Europe is already dealing with this extreme heat. And of course, we already have numbers of people dying from this. And also what we do know is that one of the airports from UK have also been, you know, evacuated. We looked at the statistics coming through where they're saying that some people had to run away from the airport as, you know, high temperatures caused sections of the runway to lift. Well, that was also coming through as one of UK's largest airports suspended flights on Monday after high temperatures damaged the runway. Now, temperatures soared up to 37 degrees Celsius. And of course, we're talking about most of these areas never having experienced that. And the airport in question right there is London Luton Airport, which announced the situation via Twitter and updated its status when the airport resumed operations Monday evening. And that is after temperatures had started going down. But of course, this is still posing a big danger as people across the area are likely to be experiencing more of that. Now, what is coming from the UK Met Office, they're saying that they are bracing for more of the temperatures rising. And that could be very catastrophic when you talk about most of the cases that have been related to most of these heat waves. Now, also what is feared is that Europe could be facing its first ever lack of gas, as you know, most people now, you know, have to regulate temperatures at home and businesses. Now, CNN did report about this as well, saying that Europe is bracing for the potential full gas crisis that is for this week and next week, as a historical heat wave has been hiking the demand for energy, both for home and business. And of course, most of the media that is also coming through covering the stories of what is happening in Europe, talking about mostly France and Spain. You talk about Portugal as well. They're looking at most of the next 10 days being really high in terms of temperatures, which have been causing this kind of heat wave. And of course, what will be expected is such extremes of, you know, having crises all over. And they also take you back through the history of what has been happening with the climate crisis, especially the fact that we're seeing more frequency in heat waves, more frequency in, you know, record-breaking temperatures, because already we have 10 records that have been broken for just last week. Due to this increasing heat. And of course, they're now also talking about one that was deadly in France. We did see that in 2003. That is in August, when hot weather got deadly in most places. And of course, reporting a lot of numbers of people dying. That was, you know, with England in the recent years having mortality across the country increasing by 16%. That is how far it went. That is in 2013, in 2003, talking about the deadly heat wave. Now, that is the one that is being compared to what we're experiencing right now. It means that we could be looking at much more of those extremes also coming through. But also most of what is coming across right now is the increasing wildfires. Yes, there are temperatures increasing, the heat wave is there, but also the winds across the area are now fueling into more wildfires. And of course, those are also across the areas of Portugal. We're looking at Spain, we're looking at France as well. And those are already being connected to the dots with the climate crisis, obviously with the frequency and intensity that has not been seen in the past. That right there is an indicator that the climate is changing, and obviously there is need to have more focus on what is happening across the world. We might be talking about, you know, the pacts that have been put across, the engagements, the agreements that are being signed, but the reality of the matter is that we are seeing such extremes that we cannot go back to, because at this point we're talking about death, we're talking about you know, destruction. And just in Spain alone, helicopters dropped water on flames of temperatures rising to 40 degrees Celsius. That was last week. And also what was reported yesterday is that in France, wildfires have now spread to over 11,000 hectares of land. That means that this is a huge area. We're talking about the southwestern region of Gironde, that is in France. And so far, more than 14,000 people have been evacuated from the area following these kind of wildfires. And we could also be looking at more of the heat wave across the country in the coming week. That is according to the Meteo France forecast that is also coming through. Still, they have also issued a red alert for most of the areas across southern France. And obviously, that means that people are able to actually go out of the area. That means if you're looking at evacuations with a red alert, these are areas that people cannot go to now, even with the tourism, standing at line. And of course, this is hitting most areas within within Europe. The UK having issued that amber alert, and now France issuing a red alert as well. But you also look at most of the events that are coming through with heat wave and high temperatures related to the fact that we've been having most emissions of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, also, as if that is not enough, the US has also started issuing alerts for areas that are expected to be having most of these temperatures rising and potential heat waves. Now, this is mostly across California, that has been highlighted for most areas within the US, where you see the orange colors and those purple colors right there. Those are the areas that are still expected to be also cutting across with heat waves as we look at most of these temperatures rising across the continent and across most areas across the world. We could be looking at most of these catastrophes coming through as we talk about the climate change crisis. Now, what is fueling this? So far, even what we're talking about and what we're worried about are the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. Now, NOAA did bring out this report yesterday on what has been happening with the weekly, measurements of carbon dioxide compared to what was covered in 1 year. Now, I want you to take a look at those numbers. Look at what last week alone had in terms of the numbers of carbon dioxide. We had 419.09 parts per million. That is measurements for carbon dioxide. But again, you look at what happened last in 1 year, that is 417.25 parts per million. You're looking at a number that is bigger than what was recorded in 1 year. That is where the worry is. But also take a look at 10 years ago. They're giving you, numbers from 2012. That was 394.59 parts per million, meaning that last week alone we had measurements more than what was recorded in 1 year and more than what was recorded in 10 years. That is why we're seeing all these temperatures going up. That is why we're seeing, heat waves across the world. And this morning we're talking about a dry spell also across Uganda, because even then we're also looking at our seasons here in Uganda taking an extent of having those variations. If you're looking at dry season, that even you cannot have any intermittent rains that we have been used to having, especially for areas across Lake Victoria, that is no longer there because of these climate variations, which is why when we're talking about climate action, we need the real action, not what is on paper, what has been implemented. Every day there is a policy that comes out saying, you know what, let people get out of wetlands, but then the next day you see a big company constructing in those wetlands. Now, some of the mundane things that we should be doing, we have also taken away that. And this crisis is not just far from us, it is also close to us, affecting agriculture, and that is where the concern is. But well, coming back from that, we want to take a look at the weather that is happening across the country for today. Now, this morning, mostly focusing on the units, the satellites over Uganda. We're seeing mostly cloudy weather across the country, and we do have some of the rainy systems that are starting to develop across Lake Victoria Islands, but those will also be affecting mostly the western part of Lake Victoria, where we do expect to have rainy conditions for this morning. And later, as we head into the afternoon, we could be having most of those cloudy conditions also develop into rainy conditions. Now, much of Uganda, actually, for right now, we're dealing with quite low temperatures. But we'll go ahead and take a look into our forecast for this morning. That is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Also looking at low numbers in terms of temperatures that have been forecast for today. We could be lucky. Some areas actually might be having rainy conditions, especially the western part of Lake Victoria. We're talking about areas of Masaka. We do have those rains that we do expect to also come through for the central part of Lake Victoria. Looking at areas of Entebbe, Kampala, Mukono later in the day. We could also be having more rains developing, especially across western western Uganda. We're looking at that western stretch right from Kabale right there. Also, the forecast does indicate most of the rainy conditions expected, especially across the central part of northern Uganda. We talk about Gulu, Padel, and Apache. We could be looking at most of those rains developing later in the day. Now, eastern Uganda remains quite dry. We do have those rains that have been forecast, but that is across the Mount Elgon Highlands that we might also expect. Now, the forecast coming in from Nyonyintono is indicating isolated showers. That is for the western part of Lake Victoria. That is Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe, and Rakai. Temperatures are likely to start off with a cool 25 degrees. Now you look at southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, and Rubirizi. Starting off with those rains, we could be having similar weather even in the afternoon, but for this morning we do expect chilly weather at 25 degrees centigrade. Now we look at the Mount Elgon Highlands, where we do have Mbale, Bududa, Boko, and Sironko. We are forecasting isolated showers. Those will be also starting off with quite a cool 22 degrees centigrade. That system is expected to redevelop later as we head towards the afternoon. Now, across the eastern parts of Lake Victoria, also we do have those light rains in the forecast. That will be across several places, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade as well. Now, eastern Uganda continues with a mix of clouds and sunshine that is expected throughout the day for most areas, also starting off with quite some cool weather at 24 degrees centigrade. Now look at the eastern part of central, where we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Burudi, Nakaseke. We are forecasting isolated showers. Those will be coming in at a cool 25 degrees centigrade for this morning. We do expect that system to cross over into the afternoon. Well, looking at a central part of northern Uganda, we do expect to have rains over there. That will be across several places, starting off with 25 degrees centigrade for this morning, and also most of those rains will be expected for later in the afternoon. Across the central part of Lake Victoria Basin, that is where we have Mukono, Kampala, and Entebbe, Wakiso. We also do expect those light rains to come through, and most of those will also be across the afternoon, starting off with a chilly 23 degrees centigrade. Looks like mostly generally we're having those cloudy conditions that are keeping the temperatures quite down, and of course those are the same clouds that we do expect to be bringing in a little bit of rains, especially as most of our rainy systems are starting to develop, especially towards the Congo area, where we do usually get most influence when it comes to wet weather conditions. Now, Western Uganda looks like we'll be picking up in terms of wet weather conditions compared to the rest of the country, but also for Lake Victoria Basin. So that is the good news coming through, especially when you're looking at such a dry season that we have. Well, that is it that we have for you for today from Weather and Nature. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and later we'll also be having sports highlights. Later than that, we'll be going for Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena, wishing you a wonderful day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Vimba! Ni MTN Kabode Super as you pay mpola for this smartphone. Make calls, update your WhatsApp status, watch YouTube, and Google anything under the sun with 2 GB worth of data every month for 7 months. Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly, or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN Kabode Super easy.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out-of-this-world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Gold TV. Love it.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Bati tozoka no chonda bakonga tona ginda. Omukwano bususe ko baby. Yo amanya ne dobo zibitwa Dr. Jose Kabile sana sapsana simba chako katage jameji Uganda. UBC West. Abantu bembarara. Music time you don't know. Twisanga yuko university in.
All in one, the biggest party of 2022 is here. UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarora station on Goch Road in Mbarora City with your favorite entertainer, HT Murecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarora University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Chigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail of fun with UBC West presenters, listeners and supporters. Come be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land. With top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Reigunga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar, and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
At exactly 7 minutes past 8 a.m. Thank you for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono, and welcome to Good Morning Uganda agenda in a segment where we have a guest in studios and we discuss issues of national importance. Now, today we are going to be discussing a very interesting topic, and that is the lower secondary curriculum. Now, just to take you back, it was in 2020 when Government of Uganda, through Ministry of Education and the Curriculum Development Center, came up with a lower secondary curriculum. Now, this was meant to ensure that we have students who go through school and they meet the requirements of the job market. That is assessment for the world of work through the lower secondary curriculum. How do we ensure that what we bring out through school then is what the job market wants? Many times you have criticized our curriculum, saying it only brings out job seekers, not job creators. Then we bring people that do not meet the desires of the employers, so they're not employable. Well, joining me on set is the Directorate of Industrial Training, and that is Dr. Patrick Byakatonda, with whom we are going to be discussing championing of the lower secondary curriculum to enhance education. Good morning, Doctor.
Morning, Kirabo, and good morning, viewers.
I must say I'm delighted to have you this morning, more so when we are at a time when we need to know more regarding transforming our education system. Now, Doctor, Directorate of Industrial Training, first of all, what is your mandate? Let's understand, what do you do? Most of the times of late, I've been so in touch with the Directorate when it comes to people in the informal sector, getting training and then later getting a reasonable document to introduce them to places of work and satisfy that they have gone through proper training for the job market. Now, coming back here, what is your mandate in championing this lower secondary curriculum?
Thank you very much. The Directorate of Industrial Training is a quality assurance body in the Ministry of Education and Sports. We assess and certify all competences, whether you have gone to school or not, as long as you have competences hands-on. The body to assess you and certify you is Directorate of Industrial Training. Now, Directorate of Industrial Training, the way how you hear the word industry, what does the industry mean? The industry means trade or occupations or profession. Now, from that definition, the intervention of DIT is highly specific, is tailor-made towards the employment. And why are we in lower secondary curriculum? Because one, if you still recall, the late Professor Senteza Kajubi report recommended vocationalizing secondary education. Okay, we tried. There were some vocations being done. Agriculture was there, woodwork, metalwork, even before the report. However, there was no additional assessment such that you are recognized for the world of work. So, but also the issue of the dropout rate. If you take the statistics, by the time children begin P1, they are around 1.8 million. When they reach P7, they are around 700,000. Those who have registered now, they are 800,000 for P7, around that figure. Now, that means 1.1 has dropped out of that cycle. Then from P7 to senior 4, the ones who around 700 sit for P7, by the time they reach senior 4, they are around 300,000. So the 400 has dropped out. The question is, where have they gone? Have they gone with the skills? If they have skills, can those skills be recognized such that is good for employment, but they can also rejoin the system? So that is the major intervention which this curriculum sought, and that is what we are supposed to do. By senior 3, students will be sitting for Directorate of Industrial Training assessment. And then they continue to senior 4, they sit for senior 2. In other words, a person or any kid who is doing pre-vocation, we call them pre-vocational subjects, will exit the cycle with 2 certification.
Okay, Doctor, help us understand when you talk about promotion of skills, employable skills in this lower curriculum, how is it being done?
The skills, we have both the hard skills and the soft skills. Now, when we, NCDC, working with the Directorate of Industrial Training, first of all, NCDC developed the curriculum, the general curriculum. Can give you an example in agriculture. So it has a curriculum on what? On agriculture. Then from there, we have to work with it. Then we modularize that curriculum. For DIT, it develops specific trades. Then we develop what we call assessment and training packages. Those packages have contents of entrepreneurship and whatever, then of activities which a child is supposed to do, the projects. When you go to the schools, my friend, the projects which they are doing, we have visited some of the schools, the Mbarara High, the Agure Memorial here, the Emma High School, mention them. When you go there, their projects are wonderful projects. So those projects are preparing learners to be innovative, to be creative, but also to be relevant in the job in the job market. So that is the magic which we have done, both of us. It is not a one person's initiative. It is a collective responsibility.
Well, that sounds very interesting, more so now when we know that the National Curriculum Development Center, together with the Director of Industrial Training, are ensuring that they bring out a quality human being that is needed for the job market. But Doctor, here we have both private and public or government institutions. When we talk about the new lower secondary curriculum that was rolled out beginning 2020, I still see gaps between these two. The likes of Mbarara High School, the Agri Memorial, these are schools that have big places, you know. Some of them already have this metal workshop, they have the woodwork workshop, they have gardens where they can go and do this agriculture. Today, in the modern setting of our schools, someone is hiring a flat and they have 2 floors. Someone is even in maybe a homestead, and this is accredited by the ministry. So how are we going to avoid these imbalances?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, vocational is a core. From the word vocal, which is a Latin word, means a core. And vocation is not only woodwork, a metal worker. So in our assessment, we have what we call diagnostic assessment. A school, you look at what it has, and it is a vocation. Because now, I can take some of the private schools, like Vudo SS is known for music. Is music, can we assess music? Yes. It is one of the occupations under DIT. We can assess what? Music. Performing arts, the entire performing arts is there. So, depending on you look at the school, you look at what it has. Actually, when you go for games, sports, I think majority of the ones who are performing well are private schools. But physical education and sports is one of the subjects now to be assessed. For DIT, it specializes football. We can now assess in what? In football or in netball. So those specifications, such that you have a certificate by senior 3, and that certificate is equivalent to a certificate of what? Of senior 4. And is recognized in both the Uganda education system and also in the labor market by Section 21 of the BTVET Act.
Wow, very, very interesting. Now that means even if a person does not complete throughout, they have a document to present, they have a skill. Now, Doctor, this triggers me to ask you to throw more light into this lower secondary curriculum. What is the content of it? You know, what is it, what is contained there that is going to cause this transformation that I want to say has been long awaited for?
What is contained? One, it is no longer training students or learners to pass. because the theme of the lower secondary curriculum is to create a secondary graduates with employable skills that are relevant in the labor market. That is the theme. Now, the entire content and the training delivery is preparing a learner toward that goal. A secondary school now, which does not employ, which does not develop a learner towards employment and self-employment, then that one will not get what? Children. And all subjects. If you are teaching English, you are a teacher of English, you ask yourself, how does English assist a learner to get what? Jobs. How does literature assist the learner to get jobs? If you do literature, you can do drama. So drama is practical. And those are the projects which we want now. Drama is practical. And is the drama, can it, yes, you have seen the dramatist when you Google. Even majority of the radio presenters are, they begin as dramatists. So your literature has now prepared you for what? For employment. If you are doing Swahili, can Swahili prepare you for employment? If you are doing Uganda, can somebody become an MC? You get the picture. I have started from the soft area. So that is the content. And the children, they begin around at 8. By 2:30, they have finished. Then the entire evening is co-curricular activities and other activities and projects. So to prepare him hands-on. Even if you go through the university system and finish, you will also remember, by the way, I have my skills here. Much as I have not yet got a job, I can do this one. So that is the content.
Well, very impressive when you talk about doctor. But let's also look at this assessment. How is it going to be done? Because in our country, we have very interesting things. I'll give an example. A child is in school X this term. Then either financial crisis or other issues, they're in school B the other term. Senior one goes to this school, senior 2 to the other school, senior 3 is along the way. So as DIT and also maybe on behalf of also tipping, how have you prepared to have this continuous assessment? That if this one is a very good footballer, and you have to make this assessment sit X at senior 3, then how are you going to be able to come up with this meaningful, reasonable assessment?
As part of the new curriculum, this is for the first time continuous assessment. You know, assessment, we have what we call formative, that is continuous. Then we have summative assessment. Summative is at the end of the what? The period, end of the term, end of the year, and so continuous assessment is going to contribute not only in DIT. For DIT, it is going to contribute a lot, almost 50%. The projects, the recognition of prior learning, because if somebody is very good in football, we have to analyze all those certificates, we categorize them, then we consider also performance. So the teacher now is very critical in this assessment. Then for the teacher still, they have now to contribute 20% to UNEB. So UNEB now, by end of the cycle at senior 4 will be assessing at 80%. Then continuous assessment contributes 20%. So then for the world of work, 50-50, mainly the projects. Because we cannot say we assess you on fish farming in only one day. Or in 3 hours. No, it is not possible. And our assessment, the one of DIT, how will it look like? Because people ask, the way how it will look like, for DIT, we assess the process and then the final product. If the assessment is to make a chair, somebody sees you, the process of making a chair, and then also the final what? Product. And the marks are instant. You finish the assessment, the marks are what? Are already known. They just send them for compilation. There is no cheating. Because we have examples. I think UBC, you have covered some of these assessments. When you Mbara Municipal Primary School is a primary school, but it is a primary school where a pupil in P6 they sit modular, which is like a PLE. A pupil and a head teacher they sit for the same examination for baking, and none is copying from the other. So that is how the assessment is going to be.
Very really visionary into what we want, having that right Uganda if all goes well. But then this brings me also to ask, Doctor, since this curriculum was launched, we've heard voices from teachers, like we're even relying on maybe to be part of this assessment and give us the information we need. Many seemingly don't understand what should be done or what they should be doing, despite the fact, 2020 was a complicated year. There was a bit of COVID. We had some workshops, ministry right here and there, but you still have many who seemingly don't even know, and you can't give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. So how are you bridging, or what should be done to bridge this gap for teachers to properly understand what they must be doing? Some still are locked in the old way. Some even tells you now this DIT thing, this new curriculum, they are still more looking at how many first grades will I get, the parents' perception towards this. How do we ensure that we are in tandem?
Thank you very much. We had when it had just started, the lower secondary curriculum. Unfortunately, we had the COVID, we had the lockdown, so we could not continue. But now we are back, and this is a new lower secondary curriculum. Whether you know it or not, we have to implement a new lower secondary curriculum. You cannot implement an old curriculum. But what we have done for the teachers, it is true. Because many of us, even ourselves, we are educated in the old secondary curriculum. I give an example of a math physics teacher. He has been teaching physics for a long time and mathematics. He can calculate all those numbers, but does he know domestic electrician? Can he wire a house? But he's a physics teacher, highly qualified. So what we are going to do, we have training of trainers, because we have to prepare the same teachers for assessment, but also for teaching. And we have the guides for teaching. When you are teaching physics, you should have a complete product that a child, by end of the lesson, he can also do the wiring of the house. So when you have that one, then it is easier for you. You have an assessment with the DIT, we have prepared you. If you have any level of domestic electrician, in addition to your physics and mathematics, you can now register for Electricity Regulatory Authority. During holiday, you work.
That is good.
During class time, you teach.
You avoid carrying all your eggs in one basket.
Definitely.
And of course, these issues of salary, there will be something to supplement.
Definitely.
But the question would be, will then these trainings be free?
The trainings, I cannot, of course, secondary school, they pay. USE schools, they don't pay. Then for assessment for DIT, for USE schools, government has already given us a budget. So the assessment will be free of charge. Then for non-USE schools and the private schools, the candidate has to pay the normal assessment fee, which has been there for a long time. Our assessment fee for level 1, because we shall be assessing them for level 1, is 80,000 per candidate.
Now, Doctor, let's also understand, when you talk about this lower secondary curriculum, what have been some of the challenges in implementation? like you from the Director of Industrial Training, what are some of those challenges that you feel are hampering the success of the implementation?
Thank you very much. First of all, people have not understood the lower secondary curriculum. That is why we need to sensitize more, to do more of sensitization. So many have not understood it. Another challenge, it requires funding. Some of the vocational subjects are expensive.
True.
So they need institution, I mean the secondary school should have those equipment, should have what to work, should have materials. However, we advise our institutions and secondary schools be creative. If you have home economics, you are teaching baking and cooking, then why do you source? Why do you buy products for the canteen outside? What the children are doing, it can be put in the what? In the canteen. Because in baking, they do cookies, chapats and whatever, and that is what they eat in the canteen. Put them in the canteen, you are doing marketing. Ban food in secondary schools. Then the cooking department, they cook and they pay. The parents pay. So when it is a visitation. So we tell them, be creative. Some of the projects, the students can pay for themselves. We visited the Emma High School here in Kisasi. They have rabbit. The students, they keep rabbits. Those rabbits multiply very fast, so they can sell them. Actually, for them, they can even pay the assessment fee through selling of rabbits. But also the urine for the rabbits is very good for fertilizers. So those are the projects which we encourage.
Now, Doctor, let's look at public perception away from just the teachers and government stakeholders into this. The public perception. I want to take you back about a decade or plus. When you talked about vocational training, oh, I'm sorry, our viewers, not to offend anybody, but these are facts. People would look at anything vocational as for the less bright, maybe people who have not been able to complete the cycle, they have had issues, and we would tell them, Abateko, you know, you come from this technical institute, there is a way that a graduate from a career, from any university would look at you, Amoteko, you know, those are people who are going in dirty work, who are going into this. Now, when you look at the parents and the general perception, how have they perceived this new curriculum, in your opinion or your assessment?
In my assessment, one, it is true. Vocational subjects have been having that negative attitude that those who have failed to perform well in school. But you look at what you have in your house. Let us say here in the studio, the chair we are sitting in was done by Msomo Gwarema. The suit, the tie, the gadgets which we are using, the communication, the entire wiring of the studio, who did it? That is the person. So where we are going for employment. Now, the one who says it is for failures, then the failures will be in the employment sector and will command. Because the countries which have developed, they develop through technology. Look at Japan, look at South Korea. Do they have resources, natural resources? No, they don't have natural resources. What they have is human resource. And they have invested heavily in vocation. So that is the truth which we tell people, but we say, please, this is the reality now.
Well, thank you for that clarification. Now, let's look at the parent input. We've heard so much about the teacher. We've heard so much about the National Curriculum Development Center and the Director of Industrial Training. Where is the parent's role into this curriculum? Well, knowing that if some teachers up to now still have issues, some schools still have issues, where is the parent's role?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirabo. The parent input is critical. First of all, in the new lower secondary curriculum, a parent is also a teacher. If you go to agriculture, if you are, we say somebody, if it is on cattle farming and you have the best farm, then your children, the first learning comes from what? From home. By the time they reach the secondary school, they already have the knowledge. They just add on. So a parent is a what? Is a teacher, number one. A parent provides school fees, scholastic materials, and even assessment fee. But a parent also provides counseling. For the parent, we say, don't force your child. Or don't punish your child. This child is ever singing and whatever. You never know. That singing might be the breadwinner.
Actually, previously, some of these, they would ask you, is it examinable by UNEP?
It is now examinable.
And now it is examinable. That is a very good achievement.
Even playing football is now examinable.
Hey. So some parents will tell you,
even athletics is examinable.
It's now examinable.
Cheptegei has won a gold medal. So isn't it precious for the entire country?
And of course it comes with a lot of money. But I'm still wondering how, you know, we've been having this challenge, Director, but I find it still, maybe so much needs to be done to sensitize parents. Someone will tell you, that school, we've just mentioned a school, but one of the parents was telling me, hey, you know, this world that we're so still locked into, would I call them specific professions than actually what the job market requires.
Definitely.
Someone would want to say lawyer, doctor, journalist, engineer, a pilot, and all this. And even we also have a problem that much as this is going to be examinable, school heads, the teachers that teach these other subjects, you see, still believe a person should come up with a first grade. A person should attain this number of points. You know, if it is that. So this perception, I see it's one of the biggest, I think, hills to maneuver.
Actually, the perception is there. We are not saying we don't want first grades. We still need first grades.
One thing times was discussing with some parents. We had a, you call them parents, teachers, PTA, is it? PTA meeting.
Parent and Teachers Association meeting.
Yeah, so I represented some friend of mine who was unable and said the school is so rigid. Someone must sign for that child. Said, okay, let me go, since I've not yet gotten there, let me go and share this experience in secondary. But one parent asked, now our children are stopping classes at about 2 to 30. We find them at the peak, playing soccer. Others we hear they are weaving. Others, what is the relevance of this? You know, at the end of the day, when we go to get them places for O level in the schools, I won't name them. They won't look at this assessment you're talking about. For them, they'll look at what do you have? Do you have 8 in 8? Do you have this in this? So I kind of thought, I'm like, okay, now this may not be a requirement, I think, for the next level. And this is also creating that a teacher now will think if our children have passed very well O level, we want them to join A level. We want them to go to those good schools because it attracts parents. Where do we now bring in your certificate, your assessment by DIT?
Thank you very much. Our assessment for DIT does not also stop people from continuity. If you
it's relevance in terms of continuity because our education system has had issues, and among the issues is this grade, yeah? Because when a person enters, actually even nursery now, you take your child to nursery, this child must be very good. The nursery must be very good. Good, because when they're joining P1, you want to take them in those good schools. They must have some schools when give interviews. Who scores more gets an opportunity to be admitted in that school. Then when we go to P1 up to P7, there are schools that are looking for those grades. For us, we take our cutoff point. You know this director. 7 for boys. Okay, 5 for boys, 6 for girls, you know. Then you go to A level, after O level, where we've had the lower secondary curriculum. Still they ask best this in that, best that in that. And now with this, does it have any relevance there? Or it's basically okay in case someone dropped up and having skills to apply later? Because these are some of the factors that drive this good process in terms of execution by the teachers.
Thank you very much. What I can say, there is continuity. DIT is not a dead word, a dead end. Once you get level 1, which is equivalent to level 3, I mean to senior 4 certificate, then you continue. We are reviewing A-level curriculum.
Okay.
By senior 5, you have level 2. That level 2 currently is equivalent to senior 6. If we have level 2 of DIT, you can even stand as an MP. We have so many of our customers, I cannot mention names. From level 2, you go to level 4 after studying for 2 years. You are at level 4, you are at technician level. That is diploma level. Now, from diploma level, you join the university in second year. In your areas of what? Of specialization. So there is that route also. But also in this route, you have also, you can rejoin. There is also joining at every entry. So it is not a dead end. However, even good schools, as you are mentioning, in the entire country, have joined the lower secondary curriculum.
Yeah.
And they already have centers with the DIT. When you go to the west, you talk of Mbara High School, Ntare, Mere Hill, with the Nyange, they have already. You go to Central, the Mengo High School, the Kiburi Secondary School, the King's College Budo. Then you go to the north, the Raibis, all those good schools. You go to the east, the Busoga College Mwiri and the rest. So the entire good schools have done what? Have registered, both government and private. Because I told you, everybody is embracing the curriculum. And now the person who prepares the children for employment and self-employment, with time, he will be the one to attract more students.
Well, I love the fact that now we are even looking at people who have not gone through the formal system, and there's some formalization of that. And moreover, formalization with practical, applicable skills for the job market. One thing that has been hurting was someone goes through a specific stage in our education calendar and they come out like nothing much. From P1, you're waiting when you get to university or get a diploma in something, but all these years, literally not much you've been getting. And now the Director of Industrial Training that does the assessment, well, I'm with the Executive Director. Now, let's also understand another thing when it comes to your mandate. You've clearly relied on teachers for this continuous assessment. How authentic, how trustworthy, how are we sure that they will give us what we need in terms of evaluation and grading these people? Because education has become commercialized. When we are looking at practical skills, doctor, I believe, this is my own assumption, that maybe someone from senior 3 who has a DIT certificate can make a table. That teacher, the proprietor may want to confirm to us that it is a fine product they have produced. So how are you going to ensure? We even have rigging sometimes, sciences. How are we going to fight this? And we don't assume, we don't bring out people with the proper documentation, yet practically they are not able to deliver.
I thank you very much. First of all, we have been doing that assessment before. And what is unique with DIT, the person who assesses is the final person. However, we have also introduced the verifiers. There are two people watching one person. And everybody takes the what? The marks now. So you cannot pass him. But okay, for continuous assessment, it has its...
That's where my worry is.
You know, for what we were trained as teachers. So, as teachers, we were examiners. I used it to examine. I taught in Kako SS. I was head of mathematics there. But what we are saying, the teacher is taught you should have integrity. Okay, integrity may not be, that is how we need continuous training for our teachers. We need to tell them, they are the ones who determine this product who is a child. Now, if you just give him marks and he passes, for practical, that one is, you give him that he can make the best chair, the best furniture, but then in the world of work, he doesn't do so, then you will have ruined your what? Your career.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor. In the interest of time, let me get your final remarks regarding that is the lower secondary curriculum, enhancing education for the proper required workforce in the job market.
Thank you very much. My final submission is to thank my minister, who is the First Lady, Honorable Janet Carter Museveni, to thank the PS, to thank also the entire team, the ministry, we have ministers of state, but the entire Minister of Education fraternity, and the head teachers. This curriculum has received enthusiasm, which is even beyond our capacity. What we have done, we have even trained the inspectors, the regional inspectors, to reinforce our efforts. So schools are calling us, we have projects, you come and see, come and advise us, come and see how to go about it. So the enthusiasm is overwhelming. So I thank you very much, and I encourage you, please come and keep with DIT. Whatever you think is not clear, let us be clear. You ask questions, you communicate to us. Those who don't have centers, please come. And to DIT, you get centers, because our assessment is beginning next year. So our first candidates will be next year. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Patrick Byakatonda, who happens to be the Executive Director, Directorate of Industrial Training, that I want to commend so much. More so of late, we have seen so many people that maybe we thought had lost hope in terms of having a document. I have so many friends of mine who are mechanics, and I can proudly say they have had their skills tested. They have been given authentic documentations and they have gotten better jobs.
Definitely.
And I'm proud of that and happy about that. Thank you so much for the good work. Well, I'll leave you with Ruben to take you through the world of sports. See you tomorrow. Have a blessed day.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Bati tozo plano chonda bako ngato na ginda. omukwano gususeko baby yo amanya neddobozi litwa Dr. Jose Kabila Sarasabsara Simba Tako Katageja Meji Uganda UBC West abantu bembarara music time you don't know twisanga ku university in
All in one, the biggest party of 2022 is here. UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarara station on Goch Road in Mbarara City with your favorite entertainer, Echitimbulecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarara University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Chigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail of fun with UBC West presenters, listeners and supporters. Come, be part of the 2020 biggest party